Welcome to the final video in this tutorial and the module. Okay, so in this video we're going to build our very first Power BI dashboard. So in order to do that, what we need to do first is actually save the data export that we created here. So I'm just going to go File, Save, Enable Saving. And I'm actually going to save it as a file on my desktop, so it'll be easy to find. So desktop, save. Okay, perfect. What we need to do then is we need to open up Power BI. So please go ahead and do that. And we should see this screen pop up. So we can either get data here or get data here. That's going to be our first step. We're going to import our Excel file. So I'm just going to click on Get Data. And then this window is going to pop up. So I'm going to select Excel, Connect. I'm going to go to my desktop, and I'm going to double click my super simple survey, Excel export. Great. Then it shows me what's inside the Excel workbook. So I'm going to select Forms and Load. So it's going to load my forms. And there we go. So here inside the fields pane, I can see, hey, I got one query called forms with the following column names. So it's automatically identified that. Here in visualizations, we can start creating a number of different visualizations. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's start with the simplest visualization possible. And that is this one. It's called card. So let's select it, and it will show up here. And so the simplest visualization that we can do is I want to know the total number of people that I've interviewed. In this case, obviously, it's test data, so I didn't actually interview anyone. I just entered a bunch of random names, but still, I want to know how many names are in my system. So we could either do that by selecting the name column, or even better, we can do it using the form ID column. So I'm going to just drag this form ID into fields, and then it's going to automatically show me the very first form ID, but that's not much use to me. So I'm going to just click on first form ID on the little arrow here, and I'm going to select count, or alternatively count distinct, which would be even better. Which means it's going to count the number of unique form IDs. And since all of my form IDs are unique, it shouldn't matter whether I select count or count distinct. And there we go. So I know that I have 8 forms in my data set. In other words, I have 8 people that I interviewed. So instead of having this count of form ID label here, I'm going to change this. I want to know the total number of respondents. That's what I wanted to say. So in order to do that, I'm going to click on this little button here, which is my format pane. And I'm going to turn off this category label selection. And then I'm going to turn on this title selection. And I'm going to expand it by clicking on this little arrow. And then we can choose the title text. So my title text is going to be total number of respondents. Perfect. But it's a bit small for me, and it's not centered. So I'm going to center it, and then I'm going to increase the size to 15 to make it a proper title. And then increase this. I've also moved this box to the top left because we always want to try and make the most use of the space that we have on our dashboard. Great, so there you go. That's our first visualization. And as you enter more data, that could either be test data or real data, and you export your file again, this number will also automatically change. So what could be the next step, the next visualization? Well, how about the number of pets? So if I drag over and make wider my fields pane, I can see the different columns that I have. So remember, I have date of birth, whether or not they own any pets, their name, where they would most like to visit. So let's use this do you own any pets one. And that's a yes/no question. So a perfect visualization for yes/no questions is the pie chart. So I'm just going to click in the blank space here to make sure I'm not selecting any of my visualizations. And then I'm going to insert the pie chart by just simply clicking on it. Again, I'm going to move it around a bit. That's fine. And then here we see the different fields that are available to us. So we have the legend, we have the details, we have the values, and then we have the tooltips. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the form ID into the values because I want to count how many instances I have. And then in the legend, I'm going to put how many pets do you own? No, sorry. I'm going to put do you own any pets? And there we go. It looks like about 3/4 do own pets. And if we hover over the yes portion of this pie chart, we can see that 6 of our submitted forms have responded yes, and that's 75%, and 2 have responded no, which equals 25%. Great. So this title isn't very nice. So again, I'm going to go to the format. I can click on the format button, and then in title, I'm going to expand this, and I'm going to just simply write out the question. So do you own any pets? Great. And again, I'm going to center it and make this 15. There, that's looking nicer already. Okay, so what other columns do we have here? What other questions do we ask? Well, how about the name and date of birth? Maybe I just want to display this like I would in a regular Excel sheet. So the way we do that is by selecting a table. So I'm going to insert a table. I'm going to make it a little bit bigger so it reaches the bottom. And I'm going to drag in the name and the date of birth. Okay, great. So I have my name, and then I have this year, quarter, month. Well, that's a bit strange because I'm not really interested in what quarter they're born in. I just wanted to display the date. So we can really easily change that here. So as you can see, we have form.date of birth with the year, quarter, month, and day. And if I again click on this little arrow, I can say, hey, I don't want this date hierarchy. I just want it to display date of birth. Perfect. Okay, so we have our little table now. Another visualization that we can enter is maybe a bar chart showing how many pets each person owns. So let's select this very first visualization. Again, I'm going to click in the blank space first, and then on the first visualization, I'm going to make this nice and big, nice and long, so we can properly see what's going on. And so what I want to see is I want to see the names down by the axis, and then the values, i.e. the number of pets, along the x-axis. So let's put name on the axis, and then I'm going to put how many pets do you own in the value. And now something interesting is going on. We see 0 to 1. So it seems like everybody only owns one pet. But we know that's not true. We know they actually own, some own 1, sure, but others might own 3 or even 12. Okay, so let's see what's going on here. We need to go to our query editor. So I'm going to go to my query editor by clicking on this button here, Edit Queries. And there we go. We're inside our query editor. We can see all the different columns that are selected. And here we can see all the different query steps. So if we click on these individual steps, we can see, okay, we identified the source first. Then we went into navigation. In the navigation steps, the column headers are not yet identified as such. So it automatically promoted the headers, and then it went and changed all the types. So if we go back to the promoted headers step, we can see, hey, none of these data types have yet been defined. But when we go here to change type, we can see, okay, it's recognized form ID as a text column, it's recognized date of birth as a date column, and then here, how many pets do you have? It's recognized as a text column. And why is that? That is because we have these null values, but they're not really null values. In Concar, they're exported as 3 dashes. So we need to change those dashes into null values and then change the data type into numeric. So let's do that. I've selected the how many pets do you own column, and I'm going to go to transform, replace values. Then in the value to find, I'm going to enter 3 dashes and replace with null. So null in Power BI is a special value. It's not 0, but it means it tells our dashboard that there is just no value in that cell. So let's press OK. All right, nice. So and we can see that null is a special value because it's italicized. And then here, this ABC, we're going to change it to a whole number. Great. So let's press home, close and apply. Okay, so nothing much has changed yet, although 2 of the names have disappeared, those that replied no. And that is because in the value, it's still registered as count of how many pets do you own, and we just want that to be the sum. And there we go. Now we have a table, or a graph, that makes sense. Okay, so again, I'm going to change the title here by clicking on the paint formatter. I'm also going to turn on data labels to show me quickly, like, oh, okay, that's how many pets everybody owes. Then I'm going to change the title. So it's going to say, how many pets do you own? Center it, 15, and there we go. Okay, so what are some other visualizations that we can put in here? How about a map visualization? So we can insert the map visualization by clicking on this button here, map. Again, I've clicked in the blank space, and then I'm going to select map. I'm just going to put that down here, make it a bit bigger. And now we can enter some, just click on it. So now we can enter all of these values. All of these fields are linked to this map visualization. So what is the first one? It's location. So for us, that is, where would you most like to visit? So let's drag and drop that in there. So now we see for each country a little blip showing up. That's great. But we also want to know, for each country, we want to change the size of the bubble to reflect the number of people that want to go to that country. So for value, for size, I'm going to insert form ID again. And there we go. So 2 people want to go to Japan, 2 want to go to Brazil, 2 to the US, and 1 to Kenya. And same for India. Great, and again, like for you it might be different, and that is because you might have responded differently when testing the application. Then I want to add a bit of color to this map, so in the legend I'm going to put the same one. Again, where would you most like to visit? And then we have the different colors. Great, so let's make it a bit prettier by clicking on the format button. I'm just going to open up the legend tab here, and I'm going to remove the title. Okay, so now it's just Brazil, Japan, USA, India, Kenya. I'm going to make it a little bit bigger, so maybe 10. And then again the title with the question, where would you most like to visit? Or where would you most like to go on holiday? Great. And again, I'm going to center it, make it 15. And another thing we could do is turn on the category labels. So now it shows us which country each of these is. So a final graph that we can put in here is maybe a scatter plot. So that's when we want to compare two numeric variables. So one thing we can do is we can plot the age against the number of pets to see if there's a relationship. As people get older, do they start accumulating more pets, or is this just a myth? So there's one problem. We only have one numeric variable in our set. We also have this number, but that is just the row number, so that doesn't mean anything. So we need to create another number. We need to basically create an age number. So how do we do that? Well, we go back to our query editor. So I'm going to click on Edit Queries. And what we're going to do is we're going to add a column. So here we have the date of birth column, and when I've clicked on the Add Column tab, I can create a new column that extracts only the year. So let's just extract the year from this date of birth column. So again, I went date, and then I selected year, and there we go. So this is their birth year. And if I want to now calculate the age, what I simply do is I create a custom column. I'm going to call it age, and then we'll say it's the year, so that's the birth year. No, sorry. So we say 2017 minus the birth year, right? And obviously there's a way to do this more dynamically. I mean, we can enter a formula here which automatically tells us what the year is now, but for the purposes of this demonstration, let's keep it simple. I just say, okay, 2017 minus the year is going to give me the age. And there we go. 29, 38, 28. Great. One last thing we need to do is change the data type here. So we're going to change it to a whole number. And now we'll be able to use it in our query. So let's go to Home, Close and Apply. Great. So again, I'm going to click on the blank space, and I'm going to enter this one. This visualization with all the bubbles, which is our scatter chart. Great, I'm going to enlarge it a bit. And again, it shows us the values that we can enter. So what are we going to enter first? I mean, so we have the x-axis and y-axis, right? So one of those is going to be how many pets do they own, and the other is going to be age. So let's put age in the x-axis, and then let's put how many pets do you own in the y-axis. Alright, great. However, we get only 1 point, and then 20 to 30 on the y-axis, and something like 300 on the x-axis. So what's going on here? Well, first of all, we don't want to know the sum values. We want to know the average values. Okay, so this makes a bit more sense, right? So the average number of pets is 4.3. The average age is about 36. But still, this isn't quite what we want. So up here we have the Details tab. And this is where we're going to put our form ID, because that's the level of detail we want. We want every single person to be represented here. So here, 12 pets. That's clearly Omar Sai. And here the oldest person with 2 pets. That might be Mary or Nastio. Okay, and one more thing that we want to do here now is we want to add a trend line to see, well, what is the relationship? And we can do that here in this third tab, Analytics. So let's click it, and then the first option is a trend line. We're going to add it, and there we go. So a very weak trend between the number of pets owned and age. Okay, great. So another thing I see here is that, this y-axis has a bit of an ugly name. And so we can change that by simply coming here, and this is how many pets do you own. We right click, and I click on rename. So I'm going to make this nice. How many pets do you own? And there we go. So it's changed it. And again, let's change the title of this scatter plot by clicking on title, selecting the title, deleting it, and then we'll say pets owned versus age. Again, I'm going to center it and make it 15. Great. And so we've set up our first dashboard. Here I'm going to quickly change the name of this tab by double clicking it, and I'll say super simple dashboard. Excellent. So that's it. And feel free to click around on your new dashboard. So if I click on, the different pie charts, it's going to update all the other graphs. So if I'm only interested in people that do have pets, I can see that it was 6 people. Here are their names, and then our where would you most like to visit map will also update accordingly. If I click on one of the individual names, for example, I can see which country did they want to go to, did they answer yes or no, and some more details. So that's pretty much it for this video. I hope you enjoyed this module in general, and we'll see you next time for our ComCare Beginners module. Alright, bye.